The stream is about to begin.
All right, my teacher friends. So one thing that I take for granted each year is this, that my kids know how to annotate. I just make this radical assumption that through the ranks as they go up from middle school, they get me at 10 honors and then they come to me in AP Lang and AP Lit. I'm like, yeah, dude, they know this, easy peasy. And I'm realizing I got to backtrack and go back to step one and teach them fundamental annotation skills. So this one is fun. It's very scaffolded and it will help us segue into more complex text. So stay tuned, sit tight, strap in, and check this one out. All right, my teacher friends, before I launch into this exercise, just want everyone to know that all the forthcoming slides, I've created a Google slide for you. It's actually a PowerPoint. If you scroll down a tad bit in the YouTube description, you'll find links to everything you'll need to run this exercise. It's ready-made for you. So let's talk about the action steps here. What do we need to do to practice the fine art of annotation? Step one, students are going to build a cart, an Amazon cart. So each student shops for 5 items on Amazon, real or imagined, sky's the limit. And I gave my kids when they walked into class a blank check addressed to them. And I just went on Google Images, cut and pasted and printed out the copy. And I just wrote their names on the pay to line. And they can get literally whatever they want and put it in their cart. So students write their list of items on a slip of paper or a digital doc. Again, I just went into Google Images and I clicked this little icon that said shopping list and I cut and pasted it on a piece of lined paper simulation. So they got a couple of things that they're working with to organize themselves. Step 2 is the cart swap. Students swap carts with a peer. The receiving student's task, annotate the list using explicit strategies. But the question becomes, how do they do that, right? Here's the missing piece. I'm going to do live annotations in front of the students. So before they annotate, it's really important to model this and kind of open up the lid of our heads. So I'm going to project a sample cart and do a think aloud. And I'm just going to write on the board with my little markers and stuff and show them how to mark this up. And I made a list. You'll see in just a second when it comes time to write the essay. So it's just some things to think about as you model this. I tell students to think about patterns and themes. Do the items connect around hobbies, interest, or identity? So examples, camping gear, hiking boots, trail snacks. I know the person's outdoorsy. Connotation and tone. What does the item say beyond its use? Luxury versus practical. Childish versus mature. So let's say someone has diamond earrings on their list. I can make an assumption without getting into real complicated semiotic deconstruction that they're into wealth, opulence, performance status. A couple of other things to consider when we annotate. Symbolism and metaphor. Could the item symbolize values, personality, or goals? So let's say someone has a sewing machine on their list. I can assume that they're creative, patient, traditional, kind of old school, age-old owl type of kid, right? Outliers or contradictions. So sometimes there are some anomalies in the list and you scratch your chin and you're like, well, that's weird. That doesn't jive with the rest of it. So what do you do if the piece doesn't fit? So let's say, for example, that a particular person places in their shopping cart a yoga mat, self-help books, but then they have a bag of hot Cheetos. You might say to yourself, well, they yearn for discipline, but they crave comfort too, right? So step 4, we're going to get into the character sketch. So using their annotation, student write a 1 to 2 paragraph character sketch. My kids are going to do 2 paragraphs of the owner of the cart. And I'm going to have them really focus on inference and not just summary. And in order to make that happen, we absolutely are going to need to model how to write that essay. So let's fill the shopping cart with 5 things, and I'll show you how to write the essay. So in my cart, I put a kazoo, an oversized Jesus sweatshirt, a beanie hat, tie-dye hippie pants, and a lotus flower necklace. So let's paint an example, and I'll show you how this works. First, I annotate this in front of the class, and these are sort of my annotation notes. The kazoo, I can assume that this person is playful, goofy, doesn't take themselves too seriously, and they got like a childlike joy and a silliness to their funny bone. The Jesus sweatshirt, I'm going to assume that they're spiritual or cultural, and that's how they identify. It could suggest comfort in face or irony, like a retro fashion. So some kids wear this stuff and they're not even really necessarily spiritual or religious or have a practice. So a symbol of values or belonging. The beanie hat is casual, relaxed, maybe artsy, signals personality through style. And moving on, the hippie pants, they're a nonconformist, right? They got this streak of individuality. They value comfort, maybe counterculture vibes, right? I could probably even say maybe possibly a liberal, right? Maybe they like Bernie Sanders. The lotus necklace, symbolic of peace, mindfulness, growth, could indicate interest in yoga, spirituality, or self-improvement. So the patterns here that we got to focus on. I'm seeing with these 5 items that spirituality and mindfulness seem to be present because we got Jesus and we got the lotus. So I'm going to think that, they're primarily concerned with individuality, style, the beanie hats, the playfulness, the kazoo. Begin to just build a character rendition in my mind. I noticed some contradictions. The religious symbolism versus the counterculture hippie style. So it suggests to me that this person has a layer of paradox at their core. So my hypothesis is that this is someone who mixes humor, spirituality, and individuality into one eclectic identity. So let's get to the culminating exercise here and roll film and take a look at how I would write these 2 paragraphs. Here's paragraph number 1. The contents of this cart suggest a person who thrives in contradictions yet embraces them with ease. The kazoo is not just a toy, it's a symbol of their ability to bring levity into serious spaces. They're the kind of person who finds joy in simple, offbeat things and doesn't mind being the center of attention if it means breaking tension. At the same time, the oversized Jesus sweatshirt signals grounding, whether through faith, family tradition, or even ironic cultural community. Together, these items suggest someone who balances silliness with a search for meaning, refusing to settle into one identity box. Here's my second paragraph. The hippie pants and beanie extend that duality, casual, nonconformist, and unconcerned with mainstream approval. They project comfort and independence, the look of someone who values freedom over polish. The lotus necklace deepens this image. It suggests mindfulness and a belief in growth, pointing towards someone who's reflective even while being playful. Taken together, these choices reveal a layered individual, whimsical yet grounded, ironic yet sincere, rebellious yet spiritual. And at this stage of the game, I'm teaching my kids my Nuance Academy and sentence patterning. So if you're following along in my YouTube channel with that stuff, I wrote these intentionally flexing the sentence pattern. So you can talk to your kids about that and incorporate all those nuanced things in their writing. Whoever owns this cart is not interested in fitting a mold. Instead, they assemble an identity as eclectic as their shopping list, fusing humor, style, and meaning into a self that is wholly original. And ladies and germs, that is the whole activity. So like I said, down below in the description, you can find all those slides. And all you'll need to do is make your checks and do your shopping list however you want. And if you have any questions, comments, concerns, feel free to reach out. I love it when teachers reach out, and especially when they say that they used my content and had a really good time with it, and it was edifying for the students. Feel free to drop me an email at writeitivyright@gmail.com. A lot of you folks know that I tour around the country often and hop into Zooms with departments or individual teachers or just a few teachers to do professional development. If you ever want me to bring my roadshow to your district, feel free to write me an email and we could talk all things your needs and what I can do, little tricks I have up my sleeve. So hopefully that serves you well and your kids enjoy this one. Take care for now.